Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar, our back to school webinar series. My name is Janine Rios, and I work for the Center for Best Practices here at Share Our Strength. And our organization works to decrease food insecurity by really working to increase access to federal nutrition programs. And we like to connect people who really have a passion for this work with best practices and really sharing those across the nation so that we all can benefit from what everyone else is doing and the great work that is out there. That's our hope for this webinar as well. We have some amazing speakers that you're all going to get a chance to hear from. I'm just going to do a brief intro and overview, and we'll get started. Today's webinar is maintaining momentum, sorry about that, and launching and sustaining breakfast after the bell programs. So welcome, and we're going to go over a few housekeeping. So in case you're wondering, if you do have a technical difficulty or question, please put it in the chat box. And we are recording this webinar, so this will be emailed to you along with the slide deck with all the resources that are involved in that as well. So you don't have to worry about that. And then if you have questions for the speakers, please enter those at any time throughout the webinar in the Q&A box, and we will get to those at the end of the webinar during the Q&A section. And so the agenda, and I'm just going to do the brief welcome and breakfast after the bell overview. Then we're going to get a chance to hear from our amazing speakers. They're going to talk a little bit about their breakfast after the bell program, about their district, and kind of how they run their program. Then we're going to have time for a panel discussion to get a little deeper into their programs and get some details. And then we'll be taking questions and answers from the audience. Next slide. So as I mentioned, this webinar is part of our Back to School webinar series. We have two more scheduled for the next couple of weeks. The next one is going to be strategies for collecting free and reduced price meal applications and leveraging outreach and promotion. That's going to be on the 18th. And then on the 23rd, we have supporting a healthy team. We've been hearing just a lot of need for how to not only build your team, but keep them well spiritually, emotionally, physically, how to retain staff. And so we heard you, and we're having a webinar on the 23rd on that. The webinar series is going to go through September, so just keep your eyes out for the next in those series as well. So to get started, for anyone who is new to breakfast after the bell, you may be wondering, what is breakfast after the bell? And basically, it's kind of in that the definition, which is it's starting and encompassing breakfast during the school day. So after the bell rings, so that we can capture those students who are at school. And there's three main ways and alternative models that is implemented. The first one is breakfast in the classroom. And so what happens with that model is students eat breakfast in their classroom after the official start of the school day, and the meals are delivered either by staff or students to the classrooms from the cafeteria, usually via coolers or insulated rolling bags. And approximately breakfast takes around 15 to 20 minutes. The next method is grab and go, and that is served from one or more central locations on the campus. It could be in carts, it could be in kiosks, or sometimes it'll be a quick opening of the cafeteria lines, and breakfast can be eaten in the classroom or in common areas. And then another one that you'll see and hear more in high schools and middle schools is called second chance breakfast. And that is usually served between first and second period. And it allows students that were not maybe hungry at the beginning of the day to get that second chance to get breakfast. Usually a grab and go model is used to serve this by reopening the cafeteria and allowing students time to eat, or from those grab and go pickup stations before they return to the classroom. And so you may be wondering, well, why is this even needed? There's a lot of different challenges and reasons. Some of them are sometimes students come to school late, or maybe consistently they come to school late, so they wouldn't be able to take advantage of a traditional cafeteria model that is before the school day. There also may be some stigma associated with, oh, the students going to the cafeteria are the breakfast students, or are the students who are receiving free lunch, etc. So it can be stigmatizing. It could have to do with just logistics. Maybe the cafeteria is on the other side of school where the students' classroom is, and they don't want to be late, or they don't want to walk, or they don't want to maybe get out of their comfort zone. I know when I was little, it would have been intimidating as an elementary student to walk across campus to the cafeteria. So that could be an issue sometimes as well. And then in high school and middle school, some of the students are just waking up, and honestly, they don't feel hungry. I remember one time I went to the nurse's office because my stomach hurt really bad in high school, and the nurse asked if I had eaten that day. And I was like, oh, no, I haven't. So it's not really the first top of mind for some students who are more sleepy than alert. And as we know, as we can feed all kids have that energy to learn, to pay attention, to be able to reach their full potential when they're at school. So it does impact equity as well. And some of the pictures here are showing those models. Next slide, please. So our organization did an analysis on breakfast after the bell and participation, just to see, like, we want to see for ourselves how this can improve breakfast after the bell. And so we looked at participation measured by the average daily participation in free and reduced price breakfast over free and reduced price lunch rates. And we saw an increase to 88% for breakfast in the classroom, 59% for grab and go, and 58% for second chance breakfast. And as you see at the bottom, this analysis includes 2,201 schools from 14 different states of the ones listed below. Next slide. And what we also found, a study that was done by some researchers at UC Santa Barbara that we contracted as well, to look at how does chronic absenteeism, how is that interrelated with breakfast after the bell? And as you can see, what we found is that serving breakfast after the bell can reduce absenteeism by an average of 6 percentage points, which is really impactful. Nationwide, when this study was done, 16% of school-age kids were absent and chronically absent as much as 3 weeks a year. And as you can imagine, that can definitely impact learning and graduation rates. And so we definitely want to make sure we're using models that can influence and help students. Again, the students that are most impacted and what we saw the most influence are elementary and rural schools. And an exploratory analysis showed that breakfast in the classroom could improve reading scores. It kind of makes sense, like the more you're at school, the more you can learn. And so we have seen that as well. Next slide, please. So we have a quick poll for you. Chelsea, if you can pull up the second poll, because we kind of just want to see how are you implementing that, or are you thinking about implementing breakfast after the bell? Maybe you're interested in starting, maybe you have no experience or even plans. Just kind of want to get a quick poll. You should see the screen, the poll come up, and I'm going to put other because it's asking me to answer it. No, it won't let me. Okay. And let me know, Chelsea, when those polls come in. Anything, Chelsea? We can Oh, there we go. So it looks like the majority of people on this call, 25%, are currently implementing breakfast after the bell. There's a small minority that does not have any experience or plans. 20% are interested in starting, and 24% have implemented in the past. So about 50% have implemented in the past and are currently implementing. Awesome. Well, great. And those who are on the fence, hopefully we can help you answer any questions that you have and help you to build that confidence and or support that you're looking for. Next slide. So now for the exciting part, we're going to hear from our speakers. We have three different districts that are going to present today. And our first will be Ethelene Sadler, Director of School Nutrition in Pulaski County Public Schools in Virginia. The next person we're going to hear from after her will be Lani Izumi, Executive Director of Nutrition Services at Grande in California. And then Ryan Cengel, Director of Food and Nutrition at Manor Independent School District in Texas. So I'm going to pass it to Ethelene. Take it away.
Thank you. Good afternoon or morning. I'm not sure where you are listening, but thank you all for having me today. And we are in beautiful Southwest Virginia, as you can see on our map there, exactly where we're located in the state. We have 7 schools in our district. Our enrollment is just over 4,000 students. Our participation in the last school year, 2020, 21, 22, and I based our data off of October. I did that because that's a lot of the data that state uses in Virginia. So our average daily participation for breakfast in October was almost 64% of our students. And for lunch, it was a little over 76% of our student participation. Our free and reduced percentages are, as of October in 2021, were 65.54%, and we are a community eligibility provision district-wide. Our budget runs about $2.6 million. Next slide. So here in Virginia, in Pulaski County, we offer a variety of federal programs, of course, National School Breakfast and Lunch. We have a robust summer food service program, and our supper meal program, CACFP, it is growing in leaps and bounds. Every year we try to increase our participation with that program, and it is definitely growing here in our district. We also are really proud of our breakfast program here. We are now a non-traditional breakfast because in today's society, we find that students are not fond of standing in a breakfast line. So that's one thing that really works for us, is to have these stations out in the hallways, at entry points at our schools, and breakfast in the classroom is really, it's working well for us. And, you know, all of you all, we've all been through the pandemic, and I found out from our faculty here, the ones that were so resistant to breakfast in the classroom, last year at the end of the year, when they found out we were going back to more traditional service, they were practically begging me not to stop breakfast in the classroom. And I understand some of you may have a feeling of being hesitant about starting this. I felt the same way. I had those same questions. How do I get started? How do I get people to buy into what we're trying to do? And there was resistance, but sometimes challenges that we overcome turn out to be something really good. And that's exactly what happened to us. Breakfast in the classroom here is very successful. And I don't want to say that I never had challenges with this. We had plenty of those, but we overcame them. And one more thing, a couple more programs. We have our farm to school program. We are actually working on procuring local beef for our district. That's something that we're getting ready to do this school year. And then prior to COVID, we had the fresh fruit and vegetable program in 2 of our schools. And with staffing shortages, we just did not apply for that last year. It was too complicated. So getting back to breakfast in the classroom, next slide. So some tips for success. Admin buy-in can be challenging. First of all, my recommendation is to go to your superintendent. If you get your superintendent behind you on breakfast and he or she realizes how important it is for these children to have breakfast for their academic success, to me, that is a crucial piece of this. Your superintendent, he is the one that can say to principals, we are going to do this. That's basically what happened here. We had a superintendent that was backing us. They saw our passion to serve these children. And that is one of the, I guess, the number one tips that I could share today is talk with your superintendent and get them to understand how important breakfast is for these students, especially in a district. If you're a high disadvantaged percentage, then that's even a better talking point to use, that how much these students need that breakfast in the morning. And also the culture shift, orderly pickup of food. You know, you have to tweak the program in your own schools. What we found out when we started, we had to change a few things, and we had to add, we had to get the equipment our staff needed to be successful, for them to be able to get the meals served out in the entry points or the hallways, wherever they're stationed. Equipment is very important, so it's organized, because when these students arrive at school, they have to move quickly through the breakfast lines and get to the classroom. So it's very important that you have that equipment and you have your breakfast carts organized so that your staff can give those students offer versus serve choices, and they can select what they need for breakfast, and then they move quietly on to class. One of the highlights of my day is if I go to an elementary school and I'm watching them hand out breakfast meals, and then I see these students in the classroom and they're sitting quietly at their desk having breakfast, you know, right then it's a win-win, because the children are getting nourished, the teacher's happy, and that to me is very important for them to start their day where it's not chaos. So those have been some of the successes and some tips I hope will help you all not to be afraid to try something new, because I had that same reservation. But after I dived in and I got people beside me, then it really started working well for us. So on to you, Lani. Oh, excuse me. I think let's see. Oh, a few more things, a few more tips. I don't want to go over my time here, but just never give up. When you really believe in something, just like if you have some administrators that are not quite sold on the idea, never give up. Be positive. And my tip there is just to select certain times when you feel like it's an open door opportunity to speak about breakfast and how it works and how it's good for the faculty, because I think principals want their faculties happy. So if you've got calm students in the morning, you have no discipline problems, then it makes a huge difference. Also, your faculty, of course, your administration, and your paraeducators, they play a large role in your schools. You need to get these people involved, have a meeting, let them know their opinions matter. Your custodial staff, very important. You want them on your side too, because they're going to be cleaning up a few messes. We've had custodians actually standing there smiling and encouraging students to take breakfast. So everybody has a part to play in this. And if you get some support, a lot of times people that are on the fence, they'll kind of come over and support your efforts when they see how passionate you are about your breakfast program. And I've already mentioned flexibility, be willing to change, be willing to tweak what needs to be tweaked to make it work well. And equipment is very important. I'm here to tell you that No Kid Hungry is your friend. There's plenty of opportunity out there. If you need equipment, breakfast carts, they're willing to help you. So that's another tip. Next slide. I think now we'll turn that over to Lani. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I have my team here because we need a whole team to get this kind of stuff up and on the road. So, and I also have to sit through while I, my nerves get to me. Okay. So we are from Oro Grande School District. We have 15 school sites. What makes us different from the rest is we cover 3 different counties. So we have schools in San Bernardino County, Riverside County, and Kern County. So we are currently transporting food to all of our 15 sites that range over the different counties. So that's fun. When I was hired in 2019, the first thing I was tasked with was to open 12 of those sites and to provide school meals to them. So we started with breakfast and lunch. Currently, we are serving over 6,000 students daily. We have an 85% participation for breakfast and a 91% participation for lunch. We grew super fast. We are a charter-based district. So when I first started in 2019, we had 3,500 students, and now we have over 6,000, which is, I know, different from what most school districts are experiencing. They're experiencing a little bit of a drop in enrollment. So sorry for taking your kiddos. So we are serving breakfast after the bell for grades TK through 12th grade. And our budget is a little over 6 million. When I got here, I think it was just over 1 million. So again, we've grown super big, super fast. We are 100% CEP. We have supper program through CACFP. We do the seamless summer option and SLP and our school breakfast program. Last year, we served 2.9 million meals. From a huge difference from 2019, we served 200,000. So just a little bit extra. So next slide. So prior to COVID, we were already planning on doing breakfast in the classroom. I feel like our school district is a little extraordinary in the fact that we do have the administrative buy-in. Like, it's kind of just like I go to them and I say, here's my idea and here's why, and they're like, okay, let's try it. So I haven't really had that to where it's a lot of pushback, because they understand how important especially breakfast is to students. We've seen a huge increase in participation with students, not feeling so tired, not feeling so cranky. They're coming to school on time, and if they're not, they're able to get it after breakfast in the classroom, or breakfast after the bell. So for our elementary sites, we do all breakfast in the classroom. So here's some pictures from one of our sites where we have the bags lined up. The teachers come and get them and they roll them out. And then some of the students are responsible for bringing them back at the end of the service time. And then for our secondary sites, we have what's called a nutrition break. So it's breakfast after the bell, and it's in between first and second period. If you can go to the next slide, I believe there's pictures. Yeah. So this is what our breakfast carts look like. This is actually the first day of school. So they just come through, they grab it from our carts and go to class. We are seeing a lot more participation with breakfast after the bell at our secondary sites, because, as was mentioned before, there's a lot of kids that just aren't hungry in the morning, right when they wake up. So it takes them a little bit to get their metabolism and things like that going. So it's been awesome for them to be able to have that. As you can see, they're very excited. Do you guys have anything you want to add to that? Okay. And then some other cool things. If you want to go to the next slide, since we do, they don't have our food truck. Well, I try to put our food truck in here. We have a food truck that also helps us provide cool different meals. Since we do range so far, we were able to purchase a food truck that goes out and helps students. And again, it's very exciting for them. So once they see that food truck roll up, they're like, I want to eat breakfast. So, all right, off to you, Ryan.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. My name is Ryan Cengel. I'm the Director of Food and Nutrition Services for Manor Independent School District. Manor is a very interesting town. We're at the northeast corner of Austin, Texas. If you know anything about Austin, you know that it's booming as far as population very, very quickly, and so is Manor. Used to be a little farm town, and now it's kind of a booming suburb in the corner of Austin. So our student enrollment is increasing quite significantly. We're sort of estimated to more than double our student enrollment over the next 10 years here in Manor. The cost of living here is increasing substantially. Housing costs are 3 times what they were 5 years ago. So it's different. You know, we have a Samsung plant here now. We have Apple, we have Whole Foods, we have Google, we have all of these tech companies that are moving here and opening plants and things like that, which is great. It offers opportunities, but it is increasing costs for a lot of our families and stuff like that. So, so some of the things we're doing are going to help with that, I think. We have 16 schools. Last year we had 9,350 students. We'll probably go up somewhere between 3 to 6% this school year. We start on Monday, and it's looking pretty close to that being the case. We have about 77% of our students are economically disadvantaged. That number is going to go down. It's going down very quickly because of just the housing cost in this neck of the woods are going up so fast that a lot of our lower income families just can no longer afford to live in Manor and in Central Texas in general. Our breakfast ADP is about 52%. Lunch ADP is 72%. This is last year's numbers. And we will be CEP district-wide. We were SSO for the last 2 years. So we're happy to continue free meals for all, which is the way it should be, as we all probably on this webinar agree with. Nationwide should be free meals for all, for everybody. So, you know, it was nice that we're able to do that for at least another couple of years. So I'm very excited about that, to offer that opportunity for families, particularly with the inflation rates and you know, supply chain and increase in food costs and gas and housing and everything like that. I think it's going to be really beneficial to our families over the next couple of years. We do breakfast after the bell in all of our schools in some way, shape, or form. We do breakfast in the classroom in 8 schools. So every elementary school except for 1. I haven't busted in. I've only been here for a year and a half. I'm a big proponent of BIC. I used to be the menu planner and dietitian for Austin Independent School District, and we had lots and lots of BIC schools. I've seen how successful it is in increasing participation and improving access to food for students. So I wanted to bring that here in Manor, and it was very, very successful. So I'm glad to keep continuing that and hopefully expand it to secondaries at some point. And our budget is about $6.8 million for next school year. You can go ahead and switch. So breakfast in the classroom, this is kind of just like a short diagnosis of how we work it. I could do my own webinar on how this works, just that alone. We do pre-ordering. The teachers do that the week before. They order for the next week coming up. And I think that's beneficial for a lot of reasons. Mainly, it decreases food waste when the teachers are pre-ordering and the students are making decisions, and we're not just sending, you know, coolers and carts and bags to rooms without the students having an opportunity to order themselves and make decisions for themselves. So we take our staff will load up those pre-ordered meals in bags, insulated bags and coolers, and deliver those to the classrooms prior to school start. And then we'll generally leave them around for a little bit for late arriving students. And we'll pick up those carts, and after meal service is done, again, giving them a little bit of time. It's, again, somebody had mentioned the grants from No Kid Hungry. All of that equipment there and all the equipment that you're going to see over the next couple of slides were purchased with grants from No Kid Hungry. So I can't emphasize how great the grant process is for No Kid Hungry. A lot of availability, a lot of openness to purchase things that are important for your program. You know, it's a really easy application process throughout the course of the, you know, just throughout the whole thing. It's a very, very, very simple process, and And it's great, and they're very helpful too as well if you have any questions or anything like that. So highly recommend it if you're looking for grant money. No Kid Hungry is a really good place to go. And then our teachers will do the counting and claiming of meals on tally sheets and send that back to our staff there. All right, next slide, breakfast after the bell. So how we work this in elementaries generally is for the non-BIC campuses, we'll keep the cafeteria line open late for students, or we'll have grab and go breakfast left in the front office. Generally, a combination of those two things are best bets. And then for BIC, again, we'll leave the bags in and coolers and all of the options for the food in the classrooms for a little bit, half hour to an hour after meal service, so they have a chance the late students have a chance to eat. And then secondaries, we have carts, and we're generally delivering those to areas where students congregate or are dropped off. I know this may be true for most of the school districts out there, but we've had a really incredible shortage of bus drivers. So a lot of our kids are arriving to school late every day, not because their parents are dropping them off late, but because we don't have enough bus drivers. And that's going to be the case this year. I think we're short about 50 bus drivers already for this coming school year. In addition to that, I mentioned before that Manor is booming, so our traffic is horrific out here. So particularly in the morning rush hour. So a lot of our buses are late because of that. So we use those breakfast carts and move them to places where we know the students are going to be dropped off and where they're coming into the building and have them available. We know that it's important to bring the food to the students instead of expecting them to come into the cafeteria line, particularly middle and high school. So bring the food to them. They're much more likely to participate and to take advantage of that. So those breakfast carts have been very successful for that in the past. So it's kind of how that works, but we'll do whatever we can do to make sure that our students have access to meals. And I can't reiterate again, we all know the research about how important breakfast is for our students as far as their academic achievement, their life achievement, the amount of time they spend in the nurse's office, their attendance, it's just, you can go on and on and on about how important it is. So a big proponent of doing whatever we can do to make sure that all of our scholars in Manor have access to a good, healthy and delicious breakfast every morning.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan and Ethelene and Lani. We already have a few questions, so we're going to start with those. But the first comment that I wanted to highlight was from Tammy, which is great information from all speakers. We're all already learning so much and getting so many nuggets from all of you all. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. We have the first question that came in from Melody is about how do you, it looks like it's accounting and claiming. She asked about, I'll read the question. It says, how do you offer in the hallways and it looks like count and keep the numbers straight and under the students' names and numbers? If I'll have whoever wants to answer that one, and then we'll move to the next question.
For us in Pulaski County, since we are a CEP division, the students do not have to be identified by name. So we use clickers, and then those meal counts are entered into our POS system as quantity for breakfast. For lunch, we use, the pin pads or touch the picture, but for breakfast, that does work, and you can use clickers.
Mm-hmm.
For us, we do the clickers for our secondary sites, but for our elementary, since we're doing it in the bag, we have teachers that do counts for us, and we also count what we're putting in and then what comes back. So that's a good indicator, and then we're entering it as a bulk into our POS as well.
Yeah, we're very similar. We just, we're lucky to be CEP. It makes this whole thing a lot easier, which is why another reason to advocate for free meals for all, so it's easier for everybody else around. But yeah, we do the same thing. We use a tally sheet, and we'll just enter it in the bulk, enter it in the POS at the end of the meal service.
And if you had to have the names, I have heard that names, like a list, it can be printed out, and then you can check off the names as they get the meals. So that could be another way if you do have to identify the students. The second question I see is from Albert. Is there a separate application for second chance breakfast?
That's a school division's decision. Whatever breakfast model they want to use, there's no special application.
Yeah, and in Texas, we just have to check that off in our application packet at the beginning of the year that we're doing some alternative form of breakfast service.
Yeah, there's no separate application for California.
Yeah, it's just a method, I believe, of how you're implementing, so how you're serving the students. So as long as you have the equipment and the staff and the buy-in, those are usually the hardest things that I've heard. I have some questions for the presenters. I'm going to start with Ethelene. I know that you have like huge buy-in and participation now, but I know that took a shift in your community and how people viewed breakfast after the bell. So my question to you, and then I'll ask the other panelists to chime in if they have some tips as well, is how do you manage to get administrative support and buy-in? And you did speak to that a little bit in your intro, but how did you get everyone's support? How did you get student support and teacher support as well?
Well, for us, when we first started our alternate breakfast programs, we were not a district-wide CEP division. So I've had experience where we only had a couple elementary schools, then we included a middle school, and then now here we are today, division-wide. But I had one principal in particular, we called him our breakfast champion, because he really understood how important it was for kids to have breakfast. And his leadership with his faculty helped us. That was kind of like the foundation for us. And from now, he's no longer in our division, but unfortunately, when COVID happened and we had to change our model and we had to deliver meals to classrooms and just had to change everything, the way we did breakfast and lunch. That's what I was referring to a while ago. Sometimes people almost have to be forced into opening up their mind to some different idea. Not always, but once they saw that, that's all it took. They just have to see, they have to be believers. That's the way I like to put it. Seeing is believing. And so if you had a school that was really negative about it, if you could get the principal at another school to talk to that principal and just say, look, this really works, and just get your faculty to give it a try. And that's what, just things like that, and just being positive. You know, there was times when something would happen and it would make me not want to be positive, but I always try to be positive and just really encouraging to our faculty that this works. And that's how we finally, I feel like we won. You know, after a while, it's not we won, I should say, our students won, because they're the ones that really benefit from this. And every one of them tell you, discipline problems, they're like non-existent when you have this organized setup. So I hope that answered the question.
It did. Thank you, Ethelene. Does Ryan or Lani, do you have anything to add to how did you get support for the program?
I'll say that I know educators. I'm a very data-driven person, and I know educators in general are very data-driven. So we did have some issues with principals when we first started BIC, you know, oh, this is too much work, blah, blah, blah. And it's a little bit more work for our staff. I won't lie about that, but and a little bit of work for the teachers, but it's beneficial to the students. So you can just show them the data. So I had one principal that was really not into it. And I showed him the data of what the ADP was for breakfast at his campus versus the campus across town that was doing breakfast in the classroom. Look, this campus is serving breakfast to 90% of their students, and you're at 46%. So this is how, you know, how impactful this can be for your student body. So I think that's very beneficial. Data.
Yeah. For us, I think the one good thing that probably came out of COVID was we had to serve in the classrooms. Our district was one of the ones that was able to open underneath the waiver. So with that, I think it helped teachers and administration see the correlation between the students receiving the meals and the difference in the attitude and the, all the things that are associated with that. So it kind of helped us in that aspect. So we didn't have to really have to talk them into it. We just said, we're going to keep going with this, and okay, that works. So.
Thank you so much. We have one specific question for Ryan here. Ryan, I'd love to hear about meals in the office, and I'd love to hear more about the system used for teachers helping with ordering breakfast in the classroom.
Okay, so that's two questions. The first one, we've had some issues with the meals in the office, just because, they want to make it easy for their staff. So they just have like a granola bar or something like that we're handing out to the students. But, we all know that's not compliant. So making sure that they understand and having conversations, or having your staff have conversations with the staff about what's compliant and what's not. Packaging things together and making it a little bit easier for them. So it's really easy to dole out. They can just give a grab and go bag of breakfast to the students as they walk in the door. Another way that we do it too is like campuses that have enough staff to be able to do that, just have a cart by the front door as the kids are coming in, late kids are coming in. So they'll just stick around for a half hour after the morning bell rings to provide meals. So I know the meals are being provided by my staff, so they know all the rules and regulations and stuff like that. So I know the meals that they're giving them are compliant. So that was helpful. As far as the pre-ordering, we have a pre-ordering sheet and form that we give to them, and we put them in the insulated bags every Friday for them to order for the next week. And then when we pick up the bags, that Friday at the end of meal service, it's already all filled out for from their teachers about, how many hot entrees and cereals and fruits and juices and milk and stuff like that in there. So, all this stuff takes a little bit of training and work. So that's something important to know. So just get out in front of your teachers, get out in front of your principals, take whatever opportunity that you have to get face-to-face with people instead of just, sending out emails or anything like that. So I think it's really important and vital to get in front of them and be there to answer any questions and calm any fears that they may have about anything.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I have a specific question for Lani now. You may hear this, or I've heard it a lot where there's pushback. And I often hear schools talking about, they're on the fence, but they talk about like, well, I don't want my class to be rat infested. I don't want crumbs everywhere. I don't want all this mess. So how do you get, I guess, educators and custodial staff on board, and how do you gain support and push through those myths and potential challenges?
So I think, well, for us, we also got I forgot to mention earlier, the thing that helped us the most was getting the grant through No Kid Hungry. So with some of that, we were able to purchase, it sounds really simple, but we were able to purchase the big, huge trash cans for each of our classrooms. So that's been like the number one thing and then training the kids, because it's really their responsibility, right? So training them to pick up their mess, to make sure they have a little sanitizer wipes in their little station, and they're wiping it up. And the teachers are just on board with that, making sure that the staff is obviously well prepared as well. I think also for our teachers, they were probably the ones who had the most pushback. So it was kind of sold to them. I guess they have something, I'm not a teacher, so they have something called adjunct duties, which is something outside of what they're doing in the classroom. So instead of them having to do this covers it. So it's kind of, that's how we sold it to them. Okay, you're not going to have to do recess duty if you're able to do these meals in the classroom. So that kind of helped them get more on board to like, okay, that makes sense. I'd rather be in my cool classroom than out on the hot blacktop. So that helped a lot too.
Thank you so much. Is there anything Ryan or Ethelene would add to that? The messy classroom rumors?
Yeah, I mean, everybody, I think, nationwide is dealing with staffing shortages. And so custodial staff is one of the main areas that we're struggling with here, particularly just due to the pay. I mean, they can go work for Amazon or, one of these other tech companies and be a custodian for them and make significantly more. So it's definitely an issue for sure, but having conversations with the head custodian and stuff like that, and talking them through the process, and doing whatever you can do. If your staff can help pick up trash bags, things like that, to help out, having large trash cans available, is a great idea as well. So just making it a little bit easier on them. But yeah, I'm sure that's a problem everywhere. It certainly is here.
Awesome.
Staffing shortages.
I have a question here. It was specifically for Ryan, but I'm going to put it out to Ethelene first. And it's, so if you didn't have CEP status, and Ryan, if you lost your CEP status, how would you continue, or what would you say to schools who are going back to having to go to the cafeteria because it's just too much of a challenge? What kind of advice would you give them? And it says, yeah.
For us, we had that experience where we did breakfast. We did grab and go breakfast, and we had a laptop that had our POS system on that laptop. So they used it to claim the meals because they would have to identify the students and they'd have to pay. We would encourage them to have money on their accounts, but if we had to go back to be a non-CEP, we would probably do that, use iPads or laptops with our POS system software installed on it, and you could do it that way.
Anything to add, Ryan, if you had to go back?
Yeah, I mean, CEP makes everything easier, doesn't it?
Yes.
For breakfast in the classroom, I know that it depends on what software system you're using. A lot of, software systems that are available, POS systems and stuff like that, have the ability for you to, claim via tablets and stuff like that, and roaming devices and things like that. Those are probably, I would look into that. What are your options as far as, what system that you're using and what's available? Check with your state agency. I know in Texas, we have the opportunity to do universal free breakfast at all of our campuses, no matter what it is. You're generally getting a little less of a reimbursement rate, but your participation rate is going to be significantly higher. So it generally comes close to evening out in the end, or evening out completely. So yeah, I would check with what options are available, with your state agency is a good one.
One more thing, Janine, if I could add to that, there are some folks out there that care so much about children. And if there are community organizations that are willing to put money on accounts for kids, if we would have to go back to non-CEP and children struggle to have the breakfast money, there's people out there that care enough to help with that too. They would, assist with the financial piece of it.
Awesome.
That's Virginia. I'm sure it's the same in California and Texas and everywhere else. There's people out there that care.
Yes, no, I think you're right. And you just have to keep asking and putting your ask out there, like you also are saying. We have a question about, and I'm going to start with Lani. What are the most popular menu items at your campus?
So if you're asking the kids, they like our benefit bars. What would you say? No.
Benefit bars are
We just brought some whole grain donuts, which they're liking.
Oh yes, the parfait.
Tomorrow's first time doing smoothies, so we know they're gonna love those. We try our best to not do as many prepackaged items as possible. Obviously, with breakfast in the classroom, it's a little hard. But what we're doing is we're just wrapping everything, so at least they do like the chorizo and egg burritos too.
Awesome, thank you. And then I'm going to move over to Ethelene and then Ryan. What are your most popular menu items?
For us, it's probably like a biscuit with sausage or a bacon and egg biscuit. That's one popular item for breakfast. And also the Pillsbury items. they're packaged, but the children really love those. So that's a good breakfast item that's easy to use for breakfast in the classroom. And for high school students, if you can get them, the Uncrustables are a great breakfast item for high school students. That really is a good one. So we use those sometimes.
Thank you. Ryan, what do you got? What do you got here in Texas?
Oh, well, I'm in Texas, so breakfast tacos are always at the top of the list, no matter where you are in Texas. So we do a lot of breakfast tacos, bean and cheese and egg and potato and other varieties. So the kids like those. We make our own sort of speed scratch kolaches. Take Rich's sub roll dough, cut it in half, wrap it around a sausage link, and bake it off in the oven. The kids really like that a lot too. And we do some smoothies, we do yogurt parfaits, stuff like that. Kids are kids, but it's good to give them some options, try new and new different things. But generally, they're very excited for breakfast taco day or sausage biscuit day are the two big ones here.
Awesome. Sounds yummy. Y'all are getting me hungry for my mid-afternoon snack. I have a question. Because you've been doing these programs for a while, I would like to know if you could go back to your younger self and give yourself advice about starting this program, about running this program, what would you do differently? What kind of advice or tips would you give to the younger self? And I'll let whoever is interested in starting this off, and then we'll just go around.
Our younger.
I'd probably have to say be patient and know that it takes time.
Yes.
You're gonna mess up and you're gonna have mistakes, and just as Ryan said, it's also really hard for our staff too. It's not as easy as just having the students come through the cafeteria. So just having the grace with the staff and training them right and things like that, which we did, but it took us a little time. Like, it seems so simple, but sometimes it's not.
I would just encourage younger folks to know how rewarding this job really is. If they get into it young, like I did. I was very young when I started in this profession, and I have loved every day for the most part. I can't say every day, but just encourage younger folks. And we are finding that we have a lot of younger folks coming on with us as team members. So I just encourage them. And knowing at the end of the day, what a difference you made for a child. That, I don't know, I think that is one thing. And the other thing for me, if I could go back, I would probably focus more on education, a lot more than I did when I was younger. But life's been good to me. So I think it's important to encourage young people to get their education and nutrition education. For sure.
Awesome. Thank you. Ryan, last but not least.
Okay. I think doing anything new and innovative and different, communication is key with your staff and all the stakeholders in the district, right? Your superintendent, somebody talked about earlier, make sure they're aware, your principals, your teachers. I'm sure you have some sort of health promotion department in the district, your shack. At your district, whatever it may be, getting them more people on board, your parents, getting people on board with it, and the understanding of why that doing these types of programs are important for your students in your district and your community is really important. And then just training for your staff and for teachers and keeping everybody on the same page and the same wavelength and just going from there. No, like Lani said, that you're going to make mistakes. They just happen. You're doing anything new, anything innovative, anything different than you've done in the past, you're going to make mistakes. It just happens. Pick yourself up and dust yourself off and move forward and learn from your mistakes for the next time.
I love that. Because I think that's what keeps a lot of us in that stuck place where we're afraid to mess up or make a mistake. And I think that's something that we've all kind of learned during the pandemic, that shoot, we don't know how to do this, so it's okay. We'll just get started and do the best that we can and y'all are doing amazing work. Thank you to each of you and to all of you for all that you're doing. We do have like 1 or 2 more questions that we won't be able to get to, but we will send those to our speakers so that they can respond to the participants who put out those questions. And after the webinar ends, you're going to get a pop-up. It's a survey on your screen. So it's going to ask you, there's about 3 or 4 very quick questions, but we really want to gear our webinars towards what y'all need. So please fill those out. It'll help us, it'll help our speakers. And then in the slide deck, it has the resources that we have on our best practices here that's Kelly put in the chat. There it is. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, it's like magic. So these are the resources that we're highlighting today. We have a lot more on our website, but these are specific to help you with your breakfast after the bell programs, to get started, to keep going. And you can always send emails to us, and we can, if you have specific questions for the speakers, send them to us, and then we will field them to the speakers to get those questions out to them. So just thank you again to everyone who came to participate, of your time. We know that everyone is super busy. Hopefully you've learned, taken some nuggets from all these great programs that we've heard of today. Thank you to Ryan and Ethelene and Lani and Chelsea, who's behind the scenes doing all of this, making this look very smooth, and to our team here at No Kid Hungry. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.